What's going on, guys? Very exciting day here as we have a new subline of Kotobukiya's Megami Device line here, kicking off with the Buster Doll Gunner. So the Buster Doll is, like I said, a new kind of subline of Megami Device, which features some really kind of unique new design aesthetics, as well as some new engineering in the character's body themselves. So it should be very cool. The first one here is Gunner, and there's a few more on the way in the Buster Doll lineup. So let's go ahead and check out Gunner here for today's video. So first off, you'll notice a little bit different box style here for this one. We still have the numbering, and kind of the general design is similar, where you have this matte black background. The character illustration is in a nice glossy finish, so you have that nice contrast of finish. We also have the addition of some runners added to like the kind of background image there, which looks really cool. And then rather than a character illustration, we have a CG render here of the model kit on the front, which is different. I like it. I am gonna kind of miss the character illustrations being on the front, because that's also really nice to see on the different Kotobukiya kits, the Megami Device, Frame Arms Girl, etc. But this is going to have the same artwork on the front and on the back. If we read our little bit of information here at the front, it says the first model in a new series featuring the completely remodeled Makinika Block 2 M body. Its layered armor system allows for parts to be easily swapped for various fighting styles to be further expanded upon. Gunner is an entry-level model specialized in ranged combat, thus allowing users to easily take part in Megami battles. So yeah, there's what our art is going to look like here on the front of the box. It's very nice. If we go around here onto the sides, you just kind of got the same thing there. Around onto the bottom of the box, here's another full look at the kit design head to toe there. You can also see other kind of states with it being less armored, and even less armored. So going through like the different layers of armor, as I was kind of talking about there in that little bit of text, we can see some examples over here of some of the finer points of the articulation there, it looks like, and these are meant to be very highly articulated as well. It's one of kind of the key points of this new line. And then there's a look at how the kit is going to look just directly out of the box without being painted or anything else extra done on it. Around here on the other side, we've got a look at our included face option parts, which do look very nice, very expressive there as always for those. And the MSRP for this one at 5,400 yen. So I've got to say, aside from the couple of other points that we've mentioned about kind of what makes this new subline different and unique, that price point is certainly unique as well. That's definitely a lower price point than kind of what I think we're typically used to seeing for Megami Device kits like this. So that's great. We still have a bunch of runners, which is as normal, and one of the reasons why these kits usually cost a little bit more, just because you have so many runners in the box. We definitely still have a lot of runners. And what I can only describe as a very interesting manual here. So the size not only is just the size of it interesting, it's very tall, long, compared to the standard manual. It's made up of a bunch of different like sections. It seems like it's just not stapled together, but it's actually made up of some different sections here. So just starting off with the outer section, which is what is on the cover here and which is what's in color. This one has some information up there in Japanese and a bunch of reference images here of the kit in its different forms. You can kind of see some of those. We also have the color guide up here as well. Then with these other parts, we've got part 1 and part 2. So it looks like part 1 is for the Block 2M body. Part 2 is for the Buster Doll Gunner. So I'm guessing that this one, part 1, is going to be a part of the instruction manual that they can just include with every single one of these Buster Doll kits. That's going to be utilizing the same body, I would imagine. So it does have a parts list right there, and the construction of the body here, kind of broken down into sections, going to the arms and legs, and then finishing off without any head. So it's just the body. And I would imagine that this is going to be sold. I don't know if I've seen so far if they're going to be selling this on its own. I would imagine they will be. They will make this available as its own kind of separate thing. There you can see it's showing that you can, for example, put a Frame Arms Girl head onto it, but obviously it's not what we're going to be doing here today. So we're going to be looking at part 2, which is how to make the body into the Buster Doll Gunner. So this is the part of the manual that has its own separate parts list and its own separate construction here, following just based off of the Block M body there, and then kind of building all the extra parts and everything out on top of that. So very interesting, very, very different, very interesting indeed. All right, so let's first take a look at our face parts, and we'll take a closer look at these in the review, but here's our 1, 2, 3 pre-printed face parts there, looking very nice as usual. Then we do also have a set of unprinted faces if you did want to use some waterslide decals. Now the waterslide decals are not included with this, that's something that's going to be sold separately. But let's get into the runners here, and starting off with runners A through D. Now this looks like a lot, and this is all of the parts here for the body. So the block body, you can see, are all going to be molded in either white or flesh tone, and they're all in these really small runners too, and they're separated into like A1, but then we have like B1, B2, B3, C1, C2, C3, C4, D1, D2, D3, D4, all the way to like D6. And so that's all the parts are going to be here for the body, which is really interesting. And you can see, like I said, I'm pretty sure this is going to be sold as a separate set later, and the size of these small runners is really kind of very interesting as well. Makes it very versatile to sell like I don't know, different parts for different sets. And yeah, it should be very interesting. This is the first kit of its kind in the line, so that's all the parts just for the body. Then we get into the parts specifically for the gunner here, starting off with runner A. Again, this is in brown for the hair parts. Runner B is going to be one part here in red for the ribbon. Runner C is going to be some white armor pieces. Runner D as well, some white armor pieces here. We've got 2 of those. Runners E and F are in dark gray. Here's runner E. Runner F we have 2 of for some more like equipment pieces in this dark gray color. And then runner G is in this light lavender color, which also looks very nice. Now, we're going to jump all the way to runner X. So here we've got runner X2, which is going to be in brown there for the shoes. Runner X3 we've got 2 of is for some clear blue parts there, which look very nice. And runner X4 is going to be our new display base here for the Megami Device. So just like with the usual Megami Device display base, it has like a matte finish and the Megami Device logo is there cut out and glossy. But as you can see, it has all these attachment points, and the same thing here with the arm of the display base also has all of these attachment points in there, kind of really emphasizing the customization. And then lastly, I skipped over this before, but here's runner X1, which is this single piece there for this skirt. Runner X2, or runner Y1, I'm sorry, I should say, is also here in that same blue color, just a single piece. And then last but not least, a few more white parts here on runner Y2, and that's it. So again, very interesting. Let's go ahead and get this built up, and then we'll see how it looks. All right, now here she is all built up in the standard mode first, the basic mode. This is how we're going to start up the review. We'll take a look at all the accessories, and then we'll take a look at the other different modes as you kind of add more stuff to the kit and change it around. But I gotta say, so impressed with this kit. It's not, I feel like reinventing the wheel is the wrong expression for this, but Kotobukiya has really gone back to the drawing board with the design on this one. I mean, there's a lot of the design that does feel similar, but you can really tell that they really put a lot of work into changing up the construction, the engineering for this kit for the better, absolutely. So you'll definitely see that over the course of the review. Let's go ahead and get into it here, starting off with the accessories. All right, so let's start off with the most basic, which is also new in this case. It is our stand, which is going to be all in clear, and you can see we've got a number of different hard points around there where you actually attach the stand arm into the base plate itself. You have options there. You have a number of points of articulation here on this. These pieces I just gonna have on here for the time being. They're just option pieces. If you wanted to have some other effect parts or something else attached onto here, you have these, which are connection pieces for connecting parts onto the base itself. You got 2 of those, and then we've got a couple of other different connection pieces. So it's got a fatter connection down here at the bottom. The top part is your standard 3mm peg, but you've got 2 of each. So in case you wanted to have, use this in any other different way that you might conceive, you've got options for making both ends the same if you want. You do also have an adapter piece here for using this with the Kotobukiya flying base. You can see at the end there, it's got a square peg hole. That's for using with the Kotobukiya flying action base. But for helping the kit stand, we also have these. So in case you didn't want to use the full stand, these basically just fit around the feet because the feet are very small and the kit's, where it's got a lot of, it can be kind of top heavy or whatever, right? So if you want to use these to help the kit to balance, you basically just have those there at the feet, and that will help the kit to stand up if you're having trouble. But you can honestly get it to stand up without those, so it's not really super necessary, but kind of a cool new thing to be included. And then let's of course take a look at some of our option faceplates. So the painting quality and everything on these absolutely looks amazing as always. So the printing, the colors, even the blushing cheeks, the painting of the mouths, and then we have our third faceplate option here like this. So all of those look really, really nice. For the neck joint, we have a number of different option pieces here if you wanted to use different heads with this kit. And the really cool thing is that these are labeled, so you can see that has a 2 on it. This one has a 1 on it, so you can know which one's which. This one has the 0, so you can use those numbers on there as reference for which of these parts you're going to use for different things. Skipping down here to the feet then too, for the toes you have this, which is just sort of like a rounded kind of toe part, but then you do have these pieces which are actually molded details of toes, which I honestly find a little bit odd. I don't really like it so much for me personally. I think I'll just stick with these, but if you did want to use those you can, and especially if you had these parts, which I think we will probably see in a future release, having these parts in skin tone color, that would make a lot more sense. But for now, just having them in white, I mean, you can use that if you want to. Then I should also mention, of course, our different hand options, and not necessarily as many hand options as we typically see with the Megami Device line. So you have these open expressive hands like that. You also have closed fists and holding hands, and that's it. So it is minimal in comparison to what we normally get, but it's everything I think that you would really need. And that's kind of it for options for the basic body. Now getting into some of our other forms here. We've of course got the uniform top here, which you're going to replace some of these parts with this part here, with these parts. And then at the waist section, you're going to replace with this white part at the center, and this skirt part is going to go around that. So it's just a pre-molded shaped skirt piece like this. Would be kind of nice in future releases to see some other different shape pieces here for the skirt, like we see with the Sosai Shoujo Teien kits, where you normally have a couple of different options for having one like kind of in a resting position and one in a more kind of blowing dynamic pose. So hopefully that's something we'll see in the future, but that looks really, really nice. And then down here at the feet, you can replace the feet with these nice shoes here. So just kind of your typical school uniform shoes, and then the toe does bend on those. All right, then for getting into the light armor mode, we have this part which is going to replace the part at the back of the head, which basically just gives you this kind of added detail of these kind of like puppy dog ears, sort of like hanging off the side, and those you can rotate around. You also have these nice clear blue parts, so you're just going to take the faceplate, the bangs, and these parts out the back of the head and attach that all onto here for our new head. I'll show you how that looks in just a moment. At the upper arm here, we have some replacement clear blue rings. So you have just a plain clear blue ring, and then you also have ones for attaching pieces onto there, one with a male hardpoint connection and one with a female hardpoint connection, so you can use those there at the upper arm if you so choose. And then we also have ones here for down at the wrists, for one with a male hardpoint connection like that. And then the female hardpoint connection is going to be here on this part. This is going to be part of the light armor, and you can see how that fits around the wrist part of this different arm piece. You do have to switch the arms. You can't attach anything onto the wrist. With this arm piece, you have to swap that out for this one. The forearm there at the bottom is slightly different. Going down to the middle of the thigh, we of course have the same options here with just having a plain ring, and then rings with connection pieces here, plus and minus. And then even down here below the knee, there's another place where you can add a clear blue ring, whether you want it just to be a plain one or one with a connection peg on there. The female connection peg, again, I have connected onto this part of the armor here, which is going to be for the light armor mode, and that is going to attach here kind of to cover the knee. And then going down to the feet, another foot option here, we're going to swap this out for these kind of like armored sort of boots, and that is also going to be added onto by some additional parts here that fits into this white armor piece, and then we have another white armor piece that fits over the top of that. And even though it shows it this way for the light armor mode, I think for the light armor mode it would kind of make sense to just have the dark color piece on its own, and then to have all the white armor attached onto there for the full armor mode. But you can see we just have hard points everywhere, and that's definitely going to be a theme of these kits, it seems, just having attachment points basically anywhere where you possibly can. Back up here to the torso for the full armor mode, we also have this collar piece, which you're just going to kind of add there to go around the neck, and kind of cool how it has the Megami Device logo kind of molded into the front and on the back side of this part, so that's just going to fit around on there. And then we've just got additional armor like this piece, which is going to fit here on the side of the arm like that. These parts which are going to be added onto the armor on the forearm like this, and this kind of backpack system here, which again is basically just giving you a bunch more hard points. Now this can be rotated left and right, up and down, and you can also just omit these pieces and just have the main centerpiece there if you wanted to. Also, these pieces up here at the top, they're just kind of like leftovers, and they're just kind of added up onto the top of there, so you don't really necessarily need to have those on there at all. But again, additional armor pieces here. This one's going to be attached onto the side of the thigh there, and then onto the front of the leg, We've got these, which are going to be slightly asymmetrical. If you can see here, you have a hard point on the outside, but not on the inside of the section. So this is going to be for the right leg, for example. And for this spot right here, that's also a swappable hard point. So right there, it's just blank. So it's just a detail. But if you wanted to have that as a spot where you could plug something into, you can swap that out with this piece. Or of course, the alternative with a male hard point like this. So again, a lot of different options. You just slide that part out and swap in this one instead, and then you have a different hardpoint connection. Last but not least, of course, our weaponry here. We've got two of these kind of machine gun type weapons, and you do have an option here with this, whether you want to have that part attached onto there or not. You can see we have this kind of like rail system, which is exactly the same like what we've got here on the backpack as well. So this part, which sort of looks like a little grenade launcher there on the bottom of the rifle, could just be attached by sliding it onto the rail here onto the backpack, for example. So not only do you have this whole system of hardpoints everywhere, you also have this cool new rail system that we're going to be using. So this part, of course, could be slid on here to the top. If you didn't want to have this on the bottom, you could have it like there on the top, for example, something like this. Maybe kind of makes a bit more sense to be something like that. I don't know. Of course, you can get creative with this, but as it is supposed to be in the manual anyway, it's just meant to be like that. And of course, we've got hard points all over the place on everything. So you guys get the gist. We've got a ton of option parts, a ton of accessories with this, and this is just the first one out in the line. We've got future sets coming out, which are going to probably recycle some of the same parts, but then also be introducing new parts, and of course in different colors and all that good stuff. But what is so different about the body itself? So I just want to start off by kind of what is the same. And that's like the wrist joints, the elbow joints, all pretty much the same. As you can see there, you get a nice bend here at the elbow. The knee joint is a little bit different, but it still just works kind of basically in the same way. You get a nice full bend there at the knee, down here at the ankle as well. You have a nice bend there. You can rotate the foot side to side. The toe bends there obviously as well. Most of what's different about the construction of the body is going to be here in the core of the body itself. So the neck is a little bit different in the way that the neck is designed, and this makes for a much better articulation here, just kind of in every which way. It's also much smoother. If you guys have ever built any of the Megami Device and Frame Arms Girl kits, you know that sometimes the ball joint here at the head can be really, really tight. This one feels really nice and smooth. Same thing here with the shoulders. Gone are the days where the shoulder blade pieces can come off and fall off and get lost, and you don't have to worry about gluing those on. It's just kind of molded together now. Moving that shoulder joint back and forth is very nice and comfortable. Again, feels very smooth. Here in the midsection, we have a really nice range of movement here, forward and back, side to side bend, and you don't really see too much. I mean, of course, if you get to like a really extreme angle, you'll see a little bit of a gap here at the back. If you have it bent all the way forward, you'll see a bit of a gap here at the back. But overall, it looks kind of nice. I haven't really mentioned this, but here you can see we have two hard points here on the back side of the body right there. And then at the waist section as well, the forward and back bend is a little bit improved here just by the design, the shape of everything. So you have some nice bend there. And then the way that the hip joint will drop down for higher articulation of the legs up to the front like that. Otherwise, this part can just be slid up and down, and that's not necessarily something new. The other like previous kits worked in a similar way. This one just feels a little bit more refined, a little bit smoother. So they basically kind of did a lot of the same things that they had been doing before, but now in a better and smoother way. You'll also notice that the gap between the legs, you're able to get the legs much closer, tighter together. Normally how it would be before is that you can't really get the legs to be really touching. You could get them to be like kind of straight like this, but now you can really get them like all the way closed like that, thanks to just how this changed in the design here at the hip section. So kind of subtle changes there in the body, but if you've built a number of these kits before, building this one, you'll definitely notice the difference, and you'll definitely notice how much nicer this is in comparison. Not that the previous kits were bad in any way, but like I said, you can tell they've really taken the time to really refine the design, really refine the construction of the body in particular with this new block body system, and then the new armor system here that we have for this particular line of the Buster Doll series. Again, really highly emphasizing the customizability here with these, and it may not be for everyone. I mean, it definitely has a very certain aesthetic look to it with all the hard points everywhere, and it gives it kind of that Swiss cheese kind of look that some people may not be into. But obviously, of course, Kotobukiya makes option parts for filling in all those hard points if you did want to. Of course, you can do that just with pieces of runner as well. You could just cut bits of runner and just fill those holes and just make it look like details really if you wanted to do that. So I mean, there's plenty of ways that you could certainly model this in your own way to your own liking. And again, this only being the first kit out in the release, you can see we have a lot of different options just built into this one. And then as we get more in the series, obviously it's just going to open up, you know, infinitely more options as far as how you want to customize these kits. And I've talked about this before, and I have to say, I have to imagine that there was a little bit of influence from the 30 Minutes Missions line in this, sort of like a bit of a clapback. It was like Kotobukiya was doing their Mechamatsumei kits, then Bandai started doing their 30 Minute Sisters kits, and now Kotobukiya is kind of like, well, we can do 30 Minute Sisters, 30 Minutes Missions kind of type stuff too with this one. So it does kind of feel like a little bit of maybe like a tit for tat maybe between the two companies. I'm not too sure about how that worked internally, but especially based on the color scheme of this one being pretty much the exact same color scheme as the original 30 Minutes Missions Alto kit, I have to imagine there's a little bit of that maybe going into how this kit was kind of designed and rolled out. But it's an awesome kit, so regardless of how it came to be, I think it's a really, really fun kit. If you guys are fans of the Megami Device line, you'll absolutely love this kit. If you've never built any of the Megami Device line, definitely check this kit out. Certainly the little bit lower price tag for this one is another reason why it's definitely worth checking out, and another reason why this makes these kits even more competitive with Bandai, and that the competitive advantage that Bandai has had previously is that their kits are just cheaper, but they don't really come necessarily with as much in the box. This one comes with a lot in the box, so it is going to be more expensive, but cheaper than maybe some of the other Megami Device options that are out there. So if you've never tried one, definitely check this out. Really looking forward to some more kits out in this line. It's definitely very interesting, and it'll just be great to see what more awesome stuff Kotobukiya is able to do with this line and in future kits. So definitely check them out. If you guys have any other further questions, of course, feel free to let me know down in the comment section below. And if you guys want to pick up this kit for yourself, as well as maybe option parts or other different kits, anything else from Kotobukiya, you can check the link in the video description to USA Gundam Store. Got all sorts of cool stuff there for you guys to check out. And as always, guys, thank you so much for all of your support, whether that be liking the video, leaving a comment, making sure that you're subscribed. It really helps out a lot. So thank you guys. Till next time, hope you all have a great day. I'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.